Hello, everybody. You're listening to Wake Up with Patty Catter, and I have Adam Johnson on the show. Welcome, Adam.
Patty, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you're here, especially because you're taking time off of your crazy job as a drill sergeant. I expected you to bark orders at me right away, but you didn't.
No, no, no. So, the thing with the drill sergeant is I always tell people it's like being a professional wrestler. There's the bad guys in pro wrestling, but it's an act, right? You're not really a bad guy. So when the hat's on, there's drill sergeant Johnson, and then when the hat's off, it's Adam. So you kind of have to have two sides of it. If you were like that all the time, man, I'd be exhausted.
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine. It seems like you would be exhausted anyways. What time do you wake up in the morning?
It depends on the shift, but most days around 3:30 in the morning. I'm up in the morning. First formation's around 4:45 for the trainees, so we are there prior to that, and we just go all day.
Oh man, I actually didn't plan on talking to you too much about this, but I changed my mind because I'm
Okay.
already hungry. So tell me this. You get up at that time in the morning. Do you eat your chow first or do you go yell at people first?
That's a good question. So I intermittent fast. So technically I don't eat at all. I typically fast around 16 to 18 hours a day. So I don't eat until about lunchtime normally. Is like that's my first meal for the day. So I'm on just a little bit of caffeine in the morning and we just go. But I'm used to it. I've been doing it for years.
So, a drill sergeant, let's back it up a little for our listeners who don't know. Now, mind you, a lot of my listeners are military veterans, but
Okay.
there's some people who listen who really don't know what a drill sergeant does, other than, you have on the TV, you have Sergeant Payne and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So drill sergeant, there's two sides of the house in the Army. So in the Army, you're either a basic training drill sergeant or you're in an advanced individual training, which they've graduated basic training. Now they go to train for their job, and there's drill sergeants there as well. So I am on the advanced individual training side. I'm there with the combat medics. So they've already graduated basic training, but a drill sergeant is there to indoctrinate the Army into the soldiers, to take them from civilian to soldier to it's cliche, but we break them down and build them up. And it really is that in that essence. Now, when they get to us, they're soldiers already. They've completed basic, and now we are just reminding them that they have not completed their mission yet. Their mission is to be a combat medic. So we still have to instill the discipline and the Army values onto them and make sure they're doing the right thing. And that's really what we're there for. We're there to make sure they're doing the right thing.
How long have you been doing this?
I'm on my third year as a drill sergeant, and that's a little long. So 2 years, it's a 24-month obligation once you complete the drill sergeant academy for all drill sergeants in the Army. I volunteered to do a third year. So,
Nice. I'm sure they need it actually, right? I mean, I've heard that there downsizing that's happened, or is that a rumor?
not really. I mean, the thing with drill sergeants is some are DA selected, so Department of the Army selects a good portion, says, "Hey, congratulations, you're going to be a drill sergeant." I was one of the crazy ones. I volunteered, so I went to HRC. Hey, HRC, I want to be a drill sergeant. I've never seen the Army move so quickly. Within a week, I had orders. So fastest I've ever seen the Army do anything, and I volunteered for it. But not really. Sometimes we're more of a need than others. That's why they'll give incentives, pay incentives for a third year if we're short drill sergeants, and that's how they got me. So
Pretty cool. And you have your own podcast. Do you talk about this on your show?
a little bit on our podcast, but not too much. I mean, we're a Second Amendment podcast, the Whiskey and Windage podcast. I have myself and two other co-hosts, Mike and Matt, and we primarily talk about Second Amendment related things, gun companies, YouTube influencers come on that are in the gun industry. We poke fun at it a little bit. My co-hosts will poke fun at me being a drill sergeant, but I don't really too much, only because a lot of the trainees that I have watch the podcast sometimes. So I try to keep that separate as possible.
Yeah, I get that. So, one thing I did see on your social media, I think you posted it maybe like a week or two ago, you had your hat on. And so, what is the story of the hat? Do you even know, or is it just part of the uniform?
The campaign hat goes back to like the original drill sergeants. It was just the hat. There's a whole story behind it, but that was when they when we wanted to indoctrinate soldiers in. I can't remember all the dates. We had to go through in drill sergeant school. We had to learn all the history. Now I can't remember any of it, of course.
Of
But
course.
it
Yeah.
goes back to the the campaign hat is one of the original like it was in World War I worn by non-commissioned officers, of course, and then in the cavalry, and then it kind of got adopted into the drill sergeants, and the campaign hat's been there ever since for the males, and the females wear the bush hat. So it's more of an Australian bush hat they wear, which we're about to change. And now females are all going to be wearing the drill sergeant hat, the campaign hat soon, very soon. So.
So when they do a change of uniform, I have heard funny rumors like there's a new commander coming in, so we're going to change the uniform again. Is that how it works, or who decides that the uniforms are going to change?
Our uniform's Big Army, so Big Army decides all that. I mean, that's going to be, I mean, I guess commanders, you're right, but it's going to be like high generals ranking that decide all those things. I mean, uniforms change, but when it comes to the hat, like the hat's been there forever. The female, deciding for females to go to the drill sergeant hat, the campaign hat that we wear, it's been talked about for a while. The Marine Corps, they all wear like drill instructors in the Marine Corps all wear this campaign hat. So it's kind of what the Marine Corps already does. So we're kind of just going towards one hat for everyone instead of having females wear a different hat. It's been a big debate forever, but that's about to change.
Okay, so that's probably why you wanted to be a drill instructor, just to wear that hat.
So I know, no, why I wanted to be a drill instructor or drill sergeant was I saw as a platoon sergeant in the Army the soldiers that were coming through, and I really wasn't happy with some of them coming out of basic, their proficiencies. I'm just like, like we need non-commissioned officers, NCOs, to step up and not just be voluntold to be there because, we talk about the Army taking the top 5% of non-commissioned officers to be drill sergeants. Well, the truth is they are taking the top 5% that's available, that didn't ready get another job, that's not selected for this. I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to get back to the Army. It was almost my time to get back to the Army. And if I wouldn't have volunteered to be a drill sergeant, the Army would have told me I was going to do something, whether it's a recruiter, an instructor, a drill sergeant, possibly. I decided to take that fate into my own hands and volunteer and give back to the Army.
Good for you. And how long have you been in?
Oh, I've been in a little over 11 years. I came in late. I was one of those old privates. I was 29 when I joined the Army.
Wow. I just
Yeah.
interviewed somebody before you. He said he was 26. And it's really funny because nowadays, a lot of 26, 27, 28, they don't know what the heck they're going to do. Heck, I know people who are in their 40s who don't know what exactly they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a lot going for you because you did start, that's pretty young, really, to still start, a career. And
Yeah.
then to be 11 years in, what is it, 20, you get to fully retire. So you're over half done.
I am. It's Army old though. To be in the Army, I mean, if I would have joined when I was 18, I'd be retired right now. So from the military. So it's Army. It's young in a career, but in the Army essence, it's old. Like to be in my position, I'm old. I'm as old as most battalion commanders that are lieutenant colonels. We're about the same age typically. So, and it's one of those things I've dealt with. When I went through basic training, I was older than most of my drill sergeants. So, it was fun. The advantage was being a little more mature, realizing things. It was my first time away from home. I'm not 18. I understand, hey, look, this is a game in essence at basic. This is a game when you become a private. You just got to shut up and do what you're told. And it's that easy. It really is. I hate to say it. It's that easy. Just shut up and color, do what you're told, and you're going to get yelled at regardless, and just accept it. And it was a little easier being a little older.
Yeah, I could see that because otherwise you have a kid fresh out of high school
Mm.
who never probably have left home, never went and
Yeah.
explored. And so at least you knew exactly what you were getting into, probably, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the kids that come through now, it's we are mentors to them. It's crazy. It's simple things like it's a Christmas block leave. They get to go home for Christmas leave, right? Well, they don't know how to go through an airport. They've never checked. Like we're teaching them the most basic rudimental things like how to check into an airport, how to do this. Like some of them have never done anything in their life. They are 18 years old. They've never experienced anything outside of their house. Their parents, they just kind of sheltered them. And now we're teaching them. I've had to teach people how to shave before. It's just the most simplest things that we do for these kids because you're right. They come right out of their house. They're 18 and they don't know anything.
That's pretty cool though, because you're really the ultimate mentor, right? I mean, and you're giving good advice, and it's really great to have people like you in the military because, our younger generations, they definitely need to know what it's like to serve
Yeah.
and lead at the same time. So, thank
Yeah.
you.
No, for sure. Thanks.
So, how did you decide to go? Well, let me back it way up. How did you decide to get out of high school and then join the military? You had that break, you said, like till you're 26. So, what did you do in between that time frame?
Oh, I had a huge break. So I was 29 actually. So I was 29. So when I got out of high school, I went to an automotive school. I loved cars. I got a degree in automotive technologies. Realized I hated that, and I realized fitness has always been something I've loved. I've always been loved just working out, and I was trying to play college football in high school, and that didn't work out. So between automotive school and not playing sports anymore, I decided to eat the same way I was eating during playing sports in high school, and I gained a bunch of weight in that 20 year range. I put on like 80 pounds, and I'm like, oh man. And then I lost it in a year. I kind of just started educating myself on nutrition and actually working out properly. And then I got a love for it. And I actually took a job as a personal trainer in downtown Chicago with my story. I came into a gym and I just told this one trainer my story. He was a head trainer. He's like, you want a job? And I was trying to move to the city. I'm a young kid. I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, yeah. So I started being a personal trainer in the city of Chicago, downtown in the heart of the financial district. And I did that for 8 years. And that was my career. I moved from a gym. Some people, I'm gonna date myself, Bally Total Fitness. Then I moved to Lifetime Fitness and I became a training manager where I developed personal trainers to train. And that was my life through most of my 20s.
Wow. So not only do you like talking about guns, you have some guns.
I mean, I'm not going to say that, but I try to
Me
stay fit.
too.
You know, being
I
fit at 40 is important to me. It's the older I get, I try to stay as fit as I can.
I mean, I could have you flex on camera, but I'll just make everybody look at your picture.
You know what's funny? I've done that on the podcast so much that everyone else, it's not like it hasn't happened before. So
Oh, well, go ahead.
there, yeah, we can get the guns out there.
See,
So
there you go. They got the gun
yeah,
show. Got a free ticket to the gun show.
there we
So,
go.
so then, okay, so you're in the military, you're doing this drill instructor thing, and then you're just like out of the blue, I'm going to start a podcast because why?
So I did not start the podcast. Mike, our founder of Whiskey and Windage, he was the founder of the podcast. Mike's probably one of my best friends. He decided that he wanted to start a two-way podcast, and he's like, he knew me through Instagram, and he knew my other co-host Matt through Instagram. We were friends, and he was trying to find people that were a diversity. So even in our podcast, the three of us, Mike is a SOT FFL, so he can build machine guns. He's an expert. He can transfer firearms. He's kind of a firearms expert. And then he wanted to bring someone on the military side of it because he's a civilian, so he wanted a military side. And then we brought on Matt because Matt is more of a gun collector, can tell you everything about the history of firearms, super educated on guns. So even in our realm, we're three people that are a little different in the gun world. And it started as just a fun thing to do for a hobby. And we did that for 16 episodes, which we no longer have on YouTube because some of them were when we call it whiskey and windage, well, there was definitely some whiskey involved at the time, and that's a story too. And we've now gotten rid of some of those, and we started getting some actual like CEOs of gun companies coming on.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, one turned into two, then turned into this gun company and this major influencer. And before we knew it, it just started getting like this is serious. And then the views started going up, and the YouTube channel started growing, and Spotify started, and Apple started growing. It's like whoa! And this year, it's kind of become like a full-time job.
That's amazing. I'm super happy for you about that. You know, a lot of podcasters, they give up within the first couple episodes because they're like, oh, I didn't automatically get a million viewers or listens or whatever. So, congratulations to you on this. So,
Thank you.
um, yeah, have you been interested in guns since you were a kid, or did that just kind of start spiraling when you were in the military, or what?
Yeah, so I was super interested in guns as a kid. I grew up in Chicago, my parents were very liberal. We didn't have guns. We weren't allowed to have guns. They were anti-gun. I wasn't around. I always loved, I was watching, I'm a kid of the late 80s, so Arnold, Sylvester Stallone movies, like that was my jam. So I've always loved firearms. Had a wanted to learn more. When I got a little bit older and I was in Chicago still, I had some buddies that were cops, so I got to learn a little bit about firearms, shooting from them. And then I joined the military, and that was actually the first time I shot a rifle, like an AR platform rifle, was in the military, and that's kind of where it all just my love for firearms came, and started educating
Wow.
myself. Yeah,
Never would have thought all of that. Like, especially like coming from Chicago, the
yeah,
most what democratic city, basically
yeah,
anti-gun you can get.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, I'm gonna rebel and I'm gonna love freedom and give me guns and let me hang out with cops who
yeah,
right now, I mean, you know, they kind of get a bad rap and hopefully that's changing, but that's interesting. I've heard that a lot of us, you know, we take from our childhood what we didn't like and we really go full throttle with it, whatever it's going to be.
yeah.
That's interesting. I did not expect that answer. I'm sure most of our listeners didn't expect that.
No, it's a love now. It's a passion. Firearms is my passion. It's not just firearms, it's the advocacy of the Second Amendment. It's the constitutional rights. I've become more of a constitutionalist, and that is something that's very near and dear to my heart is, our rights as people, as citizens. And it goes deeper than just having guns and I love building guns. I love shooting them, of course, but the Second Amendment is really what's important to me.
Absolutely. Freedom. I have to ask because I know my listeners are probably going to want to know, are your parents still living? How are they with all of this?
Oh, so yeah, great question. So my dad, he passed away a few years ago from a form of MS. So he was sick most of his life with the disease, and he did pass unfortunately a few years back. My mom is alive and well. She's not a gun person herself, but she's not against what I do. She's probably surprised at what I do and how it came about. I think most of my family that knows about it is they're kind of like, oh, that's cool. You're doing this little podcast thing at first. And it was. It was like, oh, this is cute. We have 20 people that watch it a week. And then all of a sudden, we go from that and it just kind of it's just blown up and it's getting bigger. And it's kind of like, oh, no, this is a serious thing. Like we're actually going to Vegas for SHOT Show, which is the biggest gun show in the country every year in January. And we're actually, hopefully, we'll find out in about 15 days if we're nominated for a Gundy Award. So we hopefully will be nominated for Best Second Amendment Podcast of the Year. So
Wow.
probably won't win, but being nominated will be cool. So we'll be there on the red carpet on the award show, and it's going to be exciting. We don't know. We might not be nominated. That nominate top five podcasts. Who knows? So
Still, you were
maybe.
nominated. And I'm telling you, it's not that easy just to get your foot into podcasting. I've been doing it for
No,
17 years and it took me a long time to build my audience and all of that stuff.
it's
I
hard.
also very, very rarely ever have another podcast host on my show. But your show was really interesting. I am not even positive how we ended up connecting on Instagram. I'm sure it was like I followed a hashtag or something along
Yeah.
those lines. But I'm telling you, you guys who are listening, you've got to check it out. So, Adam, share your Instagram account and whatever other social media you're on.
Yeah, so my personal Instagram is AdamJ_official. And that's really my big one is Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I have an X, but I haven't even like messed with it. That's where I feel bad. I don't mess with my X a lot. And then for the podcast, it's just Whiskey and Windage. It's whiskeyandwindage.com. It's at Whiskey and Windage on Instagram. You can just Google Whiskey and Windage for the first Google, like the first page is just going to be, you're going to see our dumbasses on the first page. So we're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on it.
You're really incredible though, because I will say you popped up in my feed a few times before I was like, okay, what is this?
Oh, I'm the annoying guy. So I've had people tell me that, and they never say I'm the annoying guy, but I've heard people say, "Oh, you popped up my feed. You popped up my feed." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the annoying guy that's always there." And then finally, you just like, well, let me see what this guy's about. And they're like, "Oh, he's a dumbass." But yeah.
You weren't a dumbass and you're not annoying, but you did keep popping up in my feed because finally I was just like, okay, there's another podcaster, right? That's my automatic first response every time I see a podcast pop up in my feed because I'm like, oh, it's just because I podcast. So another one's just popping up.
Yeah.
But no, you literally get on there almost every day. Like today, I opened up my Instagram and the first thing I heard was you saying, it's Thursday. And I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, it is
Yeah.
Thursday. And he just made this again, like another video again. It's good.
I mean, okay, there is a trick to it, and I'll just say the trick. Sometimes we might pre-record things too in the week, and we load them, but that's the trick to it.
Yep.
Consistency is a trick. I don't care what you do, and
Yep.
I want to say this since you are a fellow podcaster, and anyone listening that wants to start a podcast, because I think we found out this election how important podcasts are.
Yep.
We found out that I think the future of real media, getting the truth out, is going to come through podcasts. If you want to start one, anyone listening, please go out and start a podcast. Do it. It takes work. Patty will tell you it takes a lot of grind. But a fun fact, I'm sure Patty knows this as well. If you can make it to 20 straight episodes in a podcast, you're in the 1 percentile of people that ever do that.
Yeah, and consistency is huge. And a lot of my listeners know I pre-record my shows
Yeah.
because we don't have time every single day to sit there and interview people.
Oh, no, not at all. We do it all the time. That's all of our shows are pre-recorded. You have
Yeah.
to. I don't, if you can do a live show, great, but that's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's really tough. So, oh man, thank you for being on the show. I have another question I ask all my guests though.
Mhm.
So, what's one trial in your life and how did you overcome that trial with triumph, or are you still working on it?
That's a great question. So it's a two-parter. It starts with overcoming my addiction to alcohol, being in the military, and then having some things happen in my life. Of course, like a lot of people in the military turn to alcohol. So being able to conquer that. But while conquering that, I also conquer the fact that taking responsibility for me and not making excuses. No matter what happens in your life, no matter who does you wrong, you can't blame them. It's on you to fix it. It's on you to put yourself in a better position. So being able to conquer addiction to alcohol and allow myself to conquer the fact that I hold the responsibility to my future have been the biggest things in my life, which we're all every day is a trial for all of us, right? We all question ourselves every day, and like you want to blame someone else, but holding yourself accountable every day in the mirror has been my biggest triumph. And you're realizing I control my fate.
Oh my gosh, preach. So that's one of the biggest things I've noticed over, I would say, like the last 5 years or so of my life is like you can't blame anybody else for how you react to something. So you're going to have a circumstance that might hit you upside the head, but how you respond is really how you're going to move forward or you're going to stay stagnant, right? So.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. I want you. Yeah, I'm gonna replay this like so many times on my feed. It is so important. I have met somebody not that long ago that is just like blaming everybody for
Yeah,
everything. He's the same as he was, when he was a kid, because he just keeps blaming his whole life. Everybody who he runs into, it's somebody's fault for something. And
right.
you can't do that. I love it. So, what is one word of advice for somebody who might be listening to the show? Maybe some kid in high school or that 29-year-old who might want to join the military. What would you tell them?
Realize it's a career choice. It's not just a thing to do. And if you do it, give it your all because the military will use you, but there's lots of things to use back, like school. I'm about to finish my bachelor's degree next month. I graduate with my bachelor's in sports health science, all paid for by the military. It might have taken me 7 years. The military paid for it. So take it seriously. Use the military because they're going to use you.
That's very true and very good advice. So, do you plan on finishing out and making this a career or you're not sure yet?
Well, in another year and a half, I have my last contract that I'll go either indefinite or I can get out. And it's up in the air.
Gotta wait and see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gotta wait and see. I can't predict that far ahead in my life. I'm not gonna say yes or no. I'm gonna say we'll see what the future holds and we'll make that decision when it comes.
Good for you for taking that accountability and facing that head on. That's a good answer because I know too many who would say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to stay in," and then the next year comes and I have them back on my show and they're eating their words.
That's why I get your education. That's why I'm working my master's degree now, and I plan on getting my master's before I get out. If I choose to get out early, that way I'm prepared to set myself up for success. So you got to have a plan. Don't just say I'm going to get out. I've seen so many people do that in the military. If you get out, have a plan. Your plan isn't go to school. Your plan is you should have went to school while you're in the military, and now you have lined up a job. That's a plan.
What are you taking for classes?
Right now, so my bachelor's will be in sports health science. So, and then if I do my master's, which I'm about to start when I graduate, it'll probably be a MBA.
Good for you. It's amazing. All right. Well, go ahead and share your social media again. Tell everybody about your podcast again before we wrap it up. And then those of you listening, it's also going to be in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah. So Whiskey and Windage, you can go to whiskeyandwindage.com is our website. We got the merch there as well. Instagram is Whiskey and Windage. On X, it's Whiskey and the letter N, Windage. And then you can find me over on Instagram at Adam J official. It's blue checked. So anything else there's a bunch of phony accounts out. People make phony accounts of me. I'm not that cool, and there's phony accounts. I'm not sure why.
It's because you have so much good content. They know yeah, they're going to try to make some money off of you.
They still, and I'm not even monetized yet. I'm like, good luck.
You're not, but they're gonna get they're gonna get
Yeah.
your money.
Yeah.
No. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on the show. I had a lot of fun today. And you guys, make sure you go to his Instagram because you have so much good, fresh content. It's amazing. But
Thank
also,
you.
I really am into guns. I was raised with guns. I don't remember a time where there wasn't guns around me. So it's like in my feelings. I love it.
Love it. Love it.
Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Adam, again for being on the show.
Thank you, Patty.